you're seeing across the NFL just people just dumping contracts because the NFL is at this weird spot where teams don't have enough money to pay all of these solid contributing starters. Johnny, explain to us why the NFL is kind of dumping all these contracts now and why this is different than most years.
So we have to remember that the CBA was renegotiated right before 2020, right? So what that meant, there was an extra clause in there in the CBA that teams were going that what teams were doing was they were trying to get under a certain amount before the CBA renewed because then they got extra carryover down the road. And so and it also meant they had to meet certain spending requirements and things. So what you ended up having was a lot of teams were backloading contracts in 2019, and that was taking effect in 20, 21, 22, and the big one was 23. People were love to backload that fourth year of a contract, and that's where that bill is coming due for a lot of teams. And then compound that with then you had the COVID year of 2020 where the cap tanked, and then the league said we're going to spread the losses out over 3 years, and to even get under the cap in 2020 you had teams converting base salary to bonuses and kicking that cap down the road, and it's just compounded and compounded. I think 23 has been the year that you're really seeing that bill come due for a huge chunk of teams. The Saints being one. You look at the Saints,
They've been the most egregious. Them and the Rams have been the most
oh,
egregious
it's
cap.
it's it's insane. They're still right now like 24 million over the cap, and they backloaded the crap out of Derek Carr's contract. I didn't realize how much they backloaded it until I looked at it. Because I'd heard he got signed, and I was like, how did they afford him? Looked at the contract, and it was like way back. I mean,
Kick that can, baby. Just
yeah,
keep
I mean,
kicking it.
they're going to end up adding a couple void years to his contract at some point just to try and spread that out to like 2030. And they still are going to have to do maneuvering just to get under the cap this year. And you look at there's like 10 teams that are over the cap right now. That there's and so that's what you're seeing is shedding these big contracts, these backloaded contracts when guys are in their third and fourth years, the big base salaries are due, and they're shedding the contracts to try and get under. It's either a way that they say, well, this is our way of renegotiating with you in public, or we believe that there's going to be enough free agents out there where everybody's the value is going to drop. I think what you're going to see is the top tier guys will get those record setting deals. When they want to be, I want to be the new highest paid player in the league at this
The
position.
Johnny Dales of free agency. They're cashing in, baby. That's what I'm talking
Oh
about.
no, oh no. But yeah, I mean, you're like a Nick Bosa. Okay, Nick Bosa might reset the edge market. Okay, you're going to see something like that. But I think where you're really going to see the market not keep up is in the mid tier guys, because there's going to be so much competition as you're seeing. That free agent list is growing and growing and growing. If you're looking for like a mid tier edge guy, there's like 10 names out there right now that are decent names. You're looking at like a Jadeveon Clowney, you're looking at a Robert Quinn, you're looking at a Samson Ebukam, you're looking at Dante Fowler Jr., you're looking at a Yannick Ngakwe. Okay, you have a bunch of these guys there that I think are going to be those mid-tier guys that are going to draw interest, but they're not going to be drawing that $15 million a year because the teams just don't have the cap, and there's not enough teams that have that room. So I think you're going to see a lower kind of mid-tier contracts situation going. I predicted this happening last year, and I missed it a little bit because I didn't expect so many teams to end up kicking the can down the road another year. But I think that's what teams are doing right now is they're going to kick the can down the road, and this is the year that you're going to see more of those mid-level contracts not inflate. They're gonna stay a little bit lower. I mean, I don't know if you've looked at the safety class alone. There's a bunch of like safeties where their name, who they are, that are out there, which is just kind of crazy to think because of how valuable safeties are.
And I think, one, just to give an example of teams pushing back their cap numbers, if we just look at Trent Williams, whenever he got his deal done in 2021, listen to these cap hits. First year, 8 million, 2022, 9 million, this year, 27, right? So everybody knew that the cap would jump up after that COVID year because of the loss of revenue. I don't think it jumped up as much as everybody hoped, but eventually it's the American way, baby. You just push those payments in the future. We'll deal with those later. And you're talking about the safety market. I think this is key. We got news today that Tayshaun Gibson is one coming back. The 49ers have expressed interest. And 3, he is going to test the free agent market, which tells me one thing. Niners said, we want you. Here's what we can pay you. You might be able to get more elsewhere. If you want to go check that, that's cool with me. We also had Jimmy Ward walk back his stance on doing free agency. So I think that's exactly, I think everybody's realizing like, holy crap, you're going to pay me what? I led the team in interceptions. I had the most snaps for your entire defense. I'm Tayshaun Gibson, baby. You're going to offer me $4 million a year? Look at this safety class. We could draft somebody in the 3rd round that we really, really like.
Right. You
It's a
know,
weird time.
I think I think with a guy like Gibson, the 49ers are looking at the landscape of who's out there for free agency and who's out there in the draft, and they're feeling good. And remember they also got Tarvarius Moore, who I'm not hugely high on. I was higher on him when he was younger.
He's a free
Still,
agent now, though.
yeah, I think they're going to bring him back for cheap, though.
Yeah.
I do. He's a good special teams guy. I know that's not the sexy thing to talk about. People are like, oh, it's bringing a player in free agency, special teams. But he's got the speed to go cover on special teams. But I think the 49ers are looking at it and they're saying, we're not going to overpay for a guy that, while we believe in you, you've really had one really good year of production. And he's on that age tipping point. I mean, you just look at some of the names that are out there. You got Jimmy Ward, who they believe in him playing nickel or safety. You got Von Bell's out there. You got Adrian Amos is out there. You got Jordan Poyer's out there. You got Jesse Bates is the big name out there. I don't think we go after him. And then there's a bunch of other names of guys that have been starters in the league, like Jonathan Abram out of Seattle. You got a few other guys out there that just are in that I don't see them wanting to pay $4 or $5 million to Tayshaun Gibson if they think they can get an Amos at 3. I don't know if Amos comes at 3, but how many teams are going to be out there wanting to pay so many of these safeties $6-7 million when only 10 teams in the league even have the cap space to sign these guys, and 6 of them have a safety already. So it's just it becomes interesting of I think they're looking around the league. I think why you're seeing Jimmy Ward maybe walk some of that back is he's starting to realize that the market will not be as flush as he was hoping, because like we said, you're seeing more contracts get dumped. You're seeing more players are getting ready to hit free agency. I think players were thinking that more of these guys were going to get retained by their teams, and they're not. And they're not liking what the teams are offering. And so they're going, I'll test free agency. And then, ooh, wait a minute. There's a lot more guys at my position out there. Maybe I don't want to test free agency. And I think as the free agency is coming for the first time in a while, players are losing leverage the closer we get to free agency.
The 49ers Rush Podcast.